Bernie Talks, where we discuss literature, its importance, and its significance in our lives. Today, we will be discussing Margaret Atwood's anthology of short stories entitled Stone Mattress. Stone Mattress is an anthology of 9 short stories which explain and display the grotesque inevitability of human nature, death. Today, our discussion will be about the themes, motifs, and how it can be analyzed through the feminist lens. First, we will be talking about the motifs in these stories and its connection to the theme. In order to understand the motifs in this anthology, it is important to know exactly what a motif is. A motif can be defined as repetition of symbols and words in a story which help establish the theme. 3 motifs prominent in Stone Mattress are death, aging, and grief. The motif of death is common in many pieces of literature, however many authors fail to capture the true essence of its inevitability. 4 short stories which we will be discussing at length are Elfinland, Revenant, Lusus Naturae, and Stone Mattress. In Elfinland, a woman named Constance is grieving the loss of her husband Ewan. As a part of her grieving process, she hears her husband's voice and thinks about all the things she regrets from her past. Revenant is about Constance's ex-lover Gavin, who years after their relationship ends, feels guilty about the past. He constantly thinks about how his life would be better if he did not mess up his relationship with Constance, and he becomes a very old and grumpy man as he gets older. Lusus Naturae tells the story of a young girl with an unnamed medical condition. It causes her to look like the image on the right. Her family realizes that she is a burden and decides to let the doctors kill her in order to take away her pain. Stone Mattress, the last of the 4 short stories, tells the story of a woman named Verna who gets revenge on her ex-boyfriend who got her pregnant when she was 16, messing up her entire life. How do these stories connect to the theme, you may ask? The first 2 stories have an elderly person as the narrator. They are close to death and are aware of its inevitability. They think about their regrets and how their lives would be different if they lived it differently. At the end of each story, they realize that while they cannot go back in time and change it, they can let go of all of the hurt and anger they once had towards other people and live the rest of their lives in peace. They all establish the theme of letting go of anger in order to create happiness. In Elfinland, it states that Constance knows the voice isn't real. She knows that Ewan is dead, of course. She knows that. Other recently bereaved people have had the same experience or close. Oral hallucinations, it's called. She's read about it. It's normal. She isn't crazy. Throughout Lusus Naturae, the unnamed narrator talks about her death and how she wishes it would come sooner because she knows she is a burden to her family. It was decided that I should die. That way, I would not stand in the way of my sister, would loom over her like a fate. Right before she dies, her mother tells her that she's not a burden and that she loves her. We must now understand how this story connects to a critical paradigm. This anthology can be analyzed perfectly through the feminist lens. The feminist lens was created in order to inform critics about the unequal treatment of women. It seeks to analyze male domination through social, economic, and political ways in literature. It seeks to answer questions such as, how are females represented? How is the female body portrayed? How do women exercise their power and what are the consequences for doing so? And what social conditions exist for women during this time? In Revenant, Gavin over-sexualizes one of his students because he sees women as sex symbols. He also treats his wife like a slave because he believes that women are only created to please a man. In Stone Mattress, women's bodies are seen as the property of others. When Verna gets pregnant at the age of 16, she's sent to a home for troubled youth. Since she is not married, it is shameful for a woman to be openly having sex. Social conditions for women are not the best since a woman's body is not her own. Women do not exercise their power often. In Stone Mattress, Verna exercises her body's power by fulfilling her sexual desires at the age of 16. Her consequences include getting pregnant, being sent to a home for troubled youth, and being shunned by men for years when she tells the truth about her child. She also murders the man who got her pregnant when she was young, however there are no consequences for her actions since she is never caught. That concludes today's discussion about Margaret Atwood's Stone Mattress. Thank you for tuning in to another episode of Bernie Talks. Tune in next week when we discuss George Orwell's 1984 and how a world like Oceania may not be too far in our future.